Hey, it's Rachel Cooke, your modern mentor. I'm the founder of Lead Above Noise, where we help organizations activate leadership and performance without sacrificing wellness or humanity. These days, I'm hearing from so many teams who feel like they're doing all the right things, but they are struggling to move with speed and confidence and clarity. Leaders are communicating, priorities are kind of being set, and we all feel like we're trying to run through molasses, like sludge is sludging us down. And I've started thinking about this fun little summer ritual that my husband and I began by accident. We've started doing this post-work evening walk together. There's no agenda, no pressure. We're just moving and talking, and it's a chance to decompress. And we chat about everything, about news, about health stuff, pop culture, whatever information we consumed during the day. And what's interesting is that he and I have very different consumption habits. We follow different voices on different platforms, so my take on the day often looks really different than his. But what makes these walks really interesting is the mix of trust and curiosity and respect that we bring. We disagree often, but it's never about winning. It really is about pushing each other's understanding and expanding our shared sense of context and what's really happening. We ask questions, we challenge each other's views, and we walk away each time with sharper thinking than we had before. And I think a version of this is what a lot of teams are needing right now. At work, we say we want clarity, and we chase alignment, and we retry the same patterns like memos and decks and meetings. But without that spiral of perspectives meeting in real time, what we end up with is misfires, delays, and exhaustion. The lesson from our walks is simple. Clarity doesn't come from a broadcast. It comes from real conversation. It's an emergent property of people who trust each other enough to share their views. Today, I want to talk about how clarity really takes shape. It is not about perfect top-down memos, but about building a truly shared context rooted in genuine curiosity and trust and strong connection. Here are 4 ways that we can all bring that evening walk clarity into everyday work. First, create spaces where real talk feels safe. If people don't feel safe being honest, you'll never get the full story. Too many workplaces confuse silence with agreement. But agreement isn't a head nod. It's people building something together because they actually get it and believe in it, and they understand how their work fits into it. This doesn't require a major program. Just find or create spaces that feel safe for real conversation. Maybe it's a small weekly sync or a Slack thread labeled unpolished thoughts only. The format doesn't matter as much as the tone. You're not aiming for polished, approved answers. You're making room for nuance and friction, other versions of the truth. I was working with one leader recently who started a "What are you seeing?" roundtable every other Friday. And the only rule was no slides, no decks, no materials. It was just a space for people to bring insights, not performance. And within a month, her team was uncovering trends and surfacing risks faster than ever. Next, ask questions that spark real talk. On these walks with my husband, we don't just share takes. We ask each other questions, and they're genuine questions like, what made that stand out for you? Or how did you get there from that point? How did you come to that conclusion? These aren't gotcha questions. They're really invitations to go a little deeper. At work, the equivalent might be, well, what part of that feels most urgent to you? Or what are you seeing that the rest of us might be missing? Or what's the thing that nobody is saying but everybody is sensing? These kinds of questions do 2 things. First, they make it clear that you're not just asking to ask, but you're asking to understand. And second, they help people get clearer about their own thinking. It sharpens the insight for everyone, not just the speaker or the listener. When someone answers a question like that, the next step is to listen, to follow up, and reflect. And if what they say shifts your thinking, say that out loud, because modeling what it looks like to have your perspective changed even just a little bit by new information creates a culture where others feel safe doing the same. Next, layer perspectives into shared understanding. One of the other things I've noticed on our walks is how often one of us says something like, "Here's what I think," and the other one says, "Well, I see it a little differently." And we keep talking until something new emerges. It's not just your view plus mine. It becomes something neither of us would have gotten alone. At work, this might sound like, well, if we add your insight about customer behavior to what we're seeing in our sales data, maybe there's a pattern. Or, you're right that the timeline is tight, and I'm seeing the same thing on the resource side. So what's a third option that we haven't considered yet? The magic here is in the layering. It's not about whose idea wins. It's about building a more complete lens that can guide better decisions. And when the teams do this consistently, they don't just solve problems faster. They build trust because everyone sees that their piece of the puzzle is needed to complete the picture. And finally, acknowledge when it works. On our walks, when one of us finally says, "That really helped," or "Now I get it," that's the moment that matters. There's no parade, there are no awards. We just name it out loud. You can do the same thing at work. A simple, "Thanks for that, I hadn't thought about it that way," or "That really helped connect a few dots for me," or "What you shared gave me the missing piece I needed." These acknowledgments are more powerful than they sound. They signal to your team and your colleagues that their perspectives mattered, that the conversation moved something, and that this is what we do here. We build context together. You don't need a weekly ritual or a formal recognition program. You just need to name it in the moment. And when you do, the practice starts to become the norm. Over time, collaborative context becomes not just something you strive for, but the space that you live in. Look, in today's world, we are rarely suffering from a lack of information. What we're missing is a shared interpretation, shared meaning, and a way of making sense together. When leaders and teams commit to building context in that way, the work gets better. We're all smarter. We can all make better decisions faster because we're guessing less. Nobody's pretending, and everybody is building from the same sense of truth. So next time you're walking into a meeting or a project or a moment of uncertainty, just ask yourself, are we layering perspectives or just trading headlines? Are we building clarity or just hoping we all heard the same thing? And then take one small step. Ask a better question, make space for a new insight, and say thank you when it lands. Because when you do, the work will move faster and it will feel more human. I hope you took some inspiration and a readiness for action from today's episode. Visit leadabovenoise.com to learn more about how me and my team can support yours. If you're enjoying the show, you can subscribe to Modern Mentor on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Find and follow me on LinkedIn. Thanks so much for listening and have a successful week. Modern Mentor is a quick and dirty tips podcast. It's audio engineered by Dan Fauerband. Our director of podcasts is Holly Hutchings. Our podcast and advertising operations specialist is Morgan Christensen, and our marketing contractor is Nathaniel Hoops.